Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for what would usually be our Premier League betting show slot. Of course, there is no Premier League football this weekend. It's the FA Cup instead, as you can tell by the title. That's what we'll be focusing on here today. You can also see that I'm on my own. My usual co-host, Matt Hill, is not with us. He's away sunning himself on holiday. So, unfortunately, it's just me that you've got to put with today. But as I said, the FA Cup this weekend. I'm not going to run through every game because there are a lot of fixtures coming up. I'm going to pick out 4 or 5 matches, 4 or 5 bets that I think you should be keeping an eye on this weekend. But if you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. We've had plenty of content over here over the Christmas period and the new year. Of course, the Darts World Championships just finished. Lots of coverage on this channel of that and over on our sister channel, Darts Now. And of course, we'll be keeping the football coverage coming week by week between now and the end of the season. So without further ado, we'll dive into it. The first game that I'm going to be putting up takes place tomorrow. We're filming on Wednesday afternoon. So Thursday evening, this one, Sheffield United versus Cardiff City at Bramall Lane in the third round of the FA Cup. We'll start with the host, Sheffield United, are of course third in the Championship at the time of recording. They are seeking a return to the Premier League, but they've endured a patchy form of late. I think it's fair to say they've only won 2 of the last 5, but still do boast the third best home record in the Championship. And also picked up a 2-0 away win over this weekend's opponents, Cardiff, last month. The Bluebirds themselves, they are really struggling. They've picked up just 5 wins in the Championship so far, sitting 23rd and only 3 points off bottom spot at the time of recording. They only have 1 win in their last 12 matches too, and have averaged a measly 0.77 points in away fixtures so far. There have been some signs of improvement recently. They are unbeaten in their previous 3 matches coming into this weekend, but I think it's fair to say that they faced a stern test up in Sheffield against, like I said, one of the better sides in the Championship this weekend. Putting all of that together that I've just talked through there, I think back in the Sheffield United win, of course, does make sense. That they currently sit, at 5-6 on the winners line to secure a spot in the 4th round. But I think I have found a way to boost that price a little further. Only 17% of matches at Bramall Lane this season have seen 3 or more goals scored in total. They've averaged, I think, there's been an average, of 1.83 per games scored in total in Sheffield United's home fixtures so far. So while the home win, I think, is the pick to back for this game. They've only lost one of their last 13 home fixtures, by the way. I'm also going to back under 2.5 goals scored. So a Sheffield United win with under 2.5 goals currently sits at 3-1 with multiple sports books, as you can see on the screen. So that's where I'll be going for this one on Thursday evening. Moving on to the next game that I've picked out, of course, we've got Aston Villa versus West Ham, 2 Premier League sides. That takes place at 8 p.m. on Friday. So we've got plenty of games to look forward to before the weekend's even here. Villa, we'll start with them. They've been quite inconsistent lately, I think it's fair to say. I don't think that's a harsh statement at all. They've picked up just 2 wins in their last 5, but they have greatly improved at home. They are now unbeaten in the last 5 at Villa Park, in fact, despite failing to win any of their previous 4 home matches prior to that run. Their 2-1 win versus Leicester last weekend was also the 3rd consecutive home match where they've scored 2 goals too. So they're really up and running now in front of their own fans, I think it's fair to say. With West Ham, there's a cloud of doubt over that club right now. I think that's certainly an accurate statement. At the time of recording, Julian Lopetegui is still in a job, but Graham Potter seems destined to replace him. There's talk that could even happen prior to this game taking place. I think the Lopetegui press conference was delayed today. He is going to be leading training, I believe, ahead of this game with Villa. But I think it's pretty clear that a change is coming. Quite a disrespectful way, I think, to treat him. We saw how they treated David Moyes at the end of his time there, so it's not a total shock. They've got a bit of a track record for this West Ham. But yeah, not the greatest way of treating Julian Lopetegui, who it's not really gone to plan for him, has it, down in the London Stadium. I think they're 14th in the Premier League at the time of writing. They've picked up just 1 win in their last 5. If he is in charge of this game, a loss you would expect to be the final straw, although it does almost feel like the decision's already been made, to be honest with you. So it's just a matter of time and before he leaves West Ham. I mentioned Villa's home form. Only Brentford and Liverpool boast a better home record in the Premier League, and Villa have only failed to score in 2 of their home matches in the league so far. But they've only kept 2 clean sheets this season in the Premier League, although I do think both of those did come at home. But still, yeah, I am going to back the Villa win. I think it makes more than sense right now. They're not having as great a season as they had last season, of course, having to juggle domestic and European commitments, but still going strong. I think it's fair to say overall. Yeah, and I think they've just got more quality and they're a better, well-rounded team. And it's not as toxic at Villa, putting it frank, as it is West Ham right now. But I do expect West Ham to land the glove on number 4. The 90 minutes are up. Now, both teams have scored in 73% of Villa's home games so far this term, and West Ham have only failed to score in 1 away fixture. So I'm going to go with a Villa win, with both teams to score. That comes in at 11-5 generally. I think that's more than a fair price, given everything that I've just discussed there. So I'll put that bet on screen for you too. There it is. Aston Villa win, both teams to score 11-5 generally. I think there's plenty of value there, given everything that we've just been through. Moving on to the third game, which now takes place on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Leicester City hosting QPR, the struggling Foxes hosting, I think, quite a buoyant QPR side who have really picked up of late, as we'll see now as I go into it. Leicester, we'll start with them. As I said, really having a hard time of it. They made a decent start in their first couple of games under Ruud van Nistelrooy, but the form has dipped very quickly for them. They've now suffered 5 consecutive losses in the Premier League, conceded 4 goals during that period, and they have the joint second worst defensive record in the Premier League. And it looks as though a return to the Championship could really be on the cards for them, which is a shame for anyone with an affinity with that club. But they'll be facing, of course, a QPR side, like I said, who I've picked up lately. Marti Fuentes' side have now just got 1 loss to their name in the last 11 in the Championship, which is a remarkable turnaround because I think they only picked up 1 win in their first 16 matches at the start of the season. So, yeah, a real improvement for them, I think it's fair to say. I would like to point out before I give you my best bet, this is more of a value play. I am going to go for a QPR win, as I'll bring up on screen now. The reason behind that, as I say, is a value play. Ultimately, Leicester are a Premier League side who anywhere near the best should have too much for QPR, but they've not really been at their best much lately. My point. As you can see, the odds there 19-4. I think that is a little too wide, and so I think there is value in having a dabble on QPR to spring up a shock. Gun to my head, I probably would pick the Leicester win, but like I said, sometimes you've got to play the value line. 19-4. I think there's more than enough juice to even half a point on a QPR win. It wouldn't be surprised at all. There's always a couple of upsets, aren't there, in the early stages of the FA Cup where a Premier League side gets dumped out by someone in a division below them. And the recent form of QPR suggests momentum could be in their favour versus the Leicester side, who, quite frankly, are in free fall right now. So that's my thinking there. Like I said, it's a value play. Obviously, it's a very wide price, and I think there's more than enough juice to have a little dabble on QPR. Okay, moving on to our penultimate game of the video, 2 Championship sides as well. Coventry City hosting Sheffield Wednesday at 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. Before I give you my best bet, of course, I'll talk you through the background of the 2 sides coming into this one. We'll start with the hosts, Coventry, who I think it's fair to say have made a decent start to life under Frank Lampard, who, of course, recently replaced Mark Robbins in the dugout. They've lost only 3 of his 9 matches since his appointment, picked up 3 wins during that period too. I think they were 2 points above the relegation places in the Championship prior to his arrival. They're now 6 above the drop zone, so there's been an improvement there. They're also unbeaten in their last 5 matches at home and have kept consecutive clean sheets in their last 2 games on home turf. So it probably explains why they enter odds-on favourites here in this one. But they do welcome a Sheffield Wednesday side with only 2 losses in their last 11 matches. Their 3-1 loss at Preston at the end of December was their first defeat in 4 matches on the road too. In fact, only 6 sides boast better away records than them in the Championship at the time of recording. Yet they still enter firm underdogs, I think just shy of 3-1. Heading into this clash this weekend, likely because of Coventry's recent home record, albeit. But Wednesday, they have lost 5 matches on their travels, but 2 of those were back in August in the Championship. They've been fairly consistent overall on the road. So I am willing to back them on the draw no bet line. Let me pull that up on the screen for you there. Yeah, the draw no bet line for Sheffield Wednesday. That comes in at 2-1. generally. Of course, that is where if the match finishes in a draw, you get your stake back. I am adopting caution because of Coventry's improvement under Lampard and their recent form at home. But I certainly think, again, there's enough juice in backing Wednesday to come out on top here. So yeah, draw no bet, Sheffield Wednesday versus Coventry for me. We'll move on to the final game that I'm going to be covering in this window, and it is the big one. I think it's the standout match from the third round of the FA Cup. That is, of course, Arsenal versus Manchester United at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday afternoon. We'll start with the hosts, Arsenal, who, of course, were left disappointed by that 2-0 loss to Newcastle in the Carabao Cup semi-finals, first leg midweek. Sums up their recent form, really, I think, Arsenal. They've been marred by inconsistency. That was their first defeat in their last 14 matches, but recent draws with the likes of Fulham, Everton and Brighton have hampered them in the title race. I think there's certainly pressure on Mikel Arteta to deliver a trophy this season. I'm sure he'll be eyeing the FA Cup up as a chance to do that. Of course, I'm sure he'll also be looking to go deep in the Champions League and contest Liverpool for the Premier League, although they are 6 points behind the league leaders at this moment in time. And they welcome a Man United side this weekend who were boosted by their performance at Anfield, I think it's fair to say, last weekend. They did draw 2-2, but it was a much improved performance. But the question is, can they sustain it? They have lost their last 4 on the bounce at Arsenal. Against Arsenal, 3 of which came at the Emirates. In fact, they've not won there since 2019, where they secured a 3-1 win in the 4th round of this competition. They did look dangerous for large spells against Liverpool United, but I think they need to show that a lot more often before we can be convinced that they're a real threat, a consistent threat going forward. They typically rise for the big games, don't they? They were frustrated Arsenal for large portions of their recent visit to the Emirates in the Premier League. I think they were only undone by 2 set pieces that day. And they also won at the Etihad versus Man City with 2 late goals to turn around that result there. But they seem to falter for the smaller games. It suggests poor preparation, a team not being able to get up for those games, which is a worry for Man United fans and for Ruben Amorim. I think he even hinted at that in his post-match interview against Liverpool. But again, this one is a big one. There's a historic rivalry between these two, of course. While Arsenal were poor against Newcastle, I do still think they'll have too much here in an albeit tight encounter. I mentioned United's recent performance at the Emirates. They sat in deep, particularly in that first half, looked to frustrate Arsenal, and it worked for the first 45 minutes. Eventually, of course, as I mentioned, they were undone by 2 set pieces, which ultimately cost them the game. And I am almost expecting a repeat of that. I think the question is whether Arsenal's forward players, the likes of Bukayo Saka, of course, is now missing, can get them over the line. They have struggled recently in tight games. Like I mentioned, those draws in the Premier League. They had chances against Newcastle the other night too, and they didn't put them away. But ultimately, I'm going to back them to have too much for this Man United side, who, mentioned Arsenal's strength from set pieces. Man United are notoriously weak at defending from them. So, yeah, I am going to go for an Arsenal win. But I'm going to couple that up with under 2.5 scored, as I did earlier on in the video too. That comes in at 3-1 generally as well. I'll pull that on screen there. Yeah, ultimately, I think Arsenal will have too much in forward areas. But United have shown promise recently, and I don't think they'll be blowing them out of the water by any means. I think it'll be quite a tight game, maybe a 1-0, maybe a 2-0 to Arsenal to secure them a spot in the 4th round. Okay, before we end this video, I'm going to briefly run you back through the 5 best bets that I put up in this video ahead of the FA Cup action this weekend. I'll put them up on screen now if it loads. There we go. First match, Sheffield United to win against Cardiff with under 2.5 goals scored. If you look at where these two find themselves in the Championship at the minute, I think Sheffield United is more than the sensible pick. And coupling that with under 2.5 goals scored boosts that price nicely at 3-1. Aston Villa to win with both teams to score against West Ham. Yeah, Villa, I think, just better side than West Ham, given everything that's going on at West Ham off the pitch too at the minute with the manager situation. Villa, strong home record, although they do struggle to keep clean sheets. West Ham have also got a strong record at scoring on the road. So yeah, that one makes sense. Very fair price at 11-5. QPR to win. As I mentioned when I covered this game, it was more of a value play more than anything. Leicester have been struggling lately in the Premier League. QPR have improved on their form in the Championship. 19-4, I think it's a little too wide, and it's worth having a dabble. So half a point there, I think, is more than a worthy punt. Sheffield Wednesday, draw no bet. As I mentioned, they've got quite a strong away record Wednesday, but But Coventry, sorry's recent home form, I think, has led to them coming in at quite strong underdogs Wednesday. I'm going to back them on the draw no bet line. A little bit of caution given Coventry's recent boost on the Lampard, but again, 2-1 generally on the draw no bet line. Plenty of value there. And finally, Arsenal to beat Man United with under 2.5 goals scored. As I said, it came in not so long ago when these two met in the Premier League at the Emirates. United got a poor record at the Emirates Stadium too. But ultimately, I do think Arsenal will have far too much quality in the end and will get through to the fourth round of the Cup. Okay, thank you everyone for watching this video. A little bit shorter than our usual Premier League bet and show slot. Far too many fixtures for me to cover all of the FA Cup games this weekend. But hopefully you agree with a few of my selections there. You're going to back a few yourself, and we can get some winners in ahead of our next Premier League bet and show, which will be back, as I said, next week. Thank you for watching this video. Please do subscribe if you want to keep up with all the sports betting coverage that we're going to be putting up over here on Odds Now. You can check out our sister channels as well, Darts Now, Boxing Now, and Races Now. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you again for watching.